I tried to quiet the storm inside me, hoping to end my secret life without a sound. But one gloomy evening, my caring husband found me in the middle of an unexpected encounter with a colleague. I tell myself I did it for excitement. When the house feels lonely at night and the silence fills every corner, I believe I deserve a thrill. I know deep down I have caused irreparable harm. My closest family now stands divided, and I carry the weight of shame every day. I was 40 when my journey of poor choices began. At that time, I had forgotten how special my husband truly was. For 20 years, we had shared laughter and tears. We met as teenagers and thought our love would last forever. He used to call me wonderful and made me feel like we were equals. He was my rock while I neglected the warmth he always gave me. We built our life together with 2 sons and 2 daughters. I grew insecure about my body, and though he reassured me by saying I was beautiful, I felt an emptiness inside. After my birthday, I made changes. I worked hard at the gym and tried new classes like yoga and Pilates. I lost a significant amount of weight and felt like a new person. My husband even joined me sometimes, shedding his own weight as he worked on himself. But the physical changes only deepened a loneliness I could not hide. Despite his tender care and every attempt to bring us closer through romantic dinners, long walks, and shared laughter, I felt numb. I told myself that maybe my body was changing because of early menopause. I thought if we only had closeness once in a while, nothing else mattered. Yet I craved more than what home could offer. After the transformation, a new manager at work took notice. A few days after my birthday, he complimented me in a way that felt different. At first, I brushed off his friendly remarks. Later, his casual comments turned into soft smiles and flirtatious chats. I started to share little pieces of my secret self with him. His youthful energy and charm made me feel alive in a way that I had not felt in years. Soon, our innocent banter evolved into a closeness that stirred feelings I thought I had buried. Every day at the office, I found my mind wandering to him. I convinced myself that it was just harmless fun. I told my husband that I was busy and tired, and our evenings turned more distant. Instead of the warm intimacy we once shared, our conversations became brief and polite. At the same time, the thrill of the forbidden was growing stronger in me. I began to look forward to our encounters, fueling my escape from a reality that was slipping away. One afternoon, when I was alone at home, I received a call from him. I had expected nothing more than a friendly text, yet he asked if we could meet outside of work. With hesitation, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe where our secrets seemed safe. There, my defenses crumbled. He kissed me softly, and for a moment, the weight of my choices vanished. That kiss marked the beginning of a 6-month affair. Every stolen moment felt like a burst of new life, and I lost myself in the passion of it all. At first, I believed the excitement could fill the void. I felt more alive when I was with him than with my husband at home. I began to seek him out more frequently, and even though I managed to keep some normalcy with my family, I was slowly drifting away. I became impatient, often pushing my husband away, picking at every small habit he had. I saw him less as my loving partner and more as a man who was simply there to remind me of the life I was abandoning. Yet, every time I was with him, I felt a rush that made everything else fade away. My husband began to notice the change. One evening, as we sat together in a quiet moment after dinner, he tried to reach out by leaning in to kiss me. I pulled away with a look of disgust that startled even me. I was lost in thoughts of my forbidden desire, and it hurt him deeply. That night, words were exchanged that cut deeper than any knife. I lied to myself, insisting that my feelings were only temporary and that I would soon realize what truly mattered. A week later, feeling overwhelmed by guilt, I called him and asked to meet at a small cafe. I planned to tell him that I needed to end everything, that the excitement was fading, and the love for my husband was too precious to lose. But before I could speak my heart, he kissed me again. In that stolen, desperate moment, everything went blank. I lost control and gave in, and the forbidden became an addiction I could not break. At home, my husband's suspicion grew. Our once quiet love turned into a battleground of accusing looks and silent tears. My brother visited unexpectedly and told me that my husband had confessed feeling depressed and distant. He feared that I no longer loved him. That conversation shook me. I realized I had hurt him deeply, and that realization drove me to abruptly end the affair. I quit my job that had been the beginning of this disaster and promised myself I would dedicate every effort to mending what was left of my marriage. But fate had other plans. One night, while I was alone at home, my forbidden lover arrived with a box of personal items from the office. We met in my guest room as I hoped to give him closure. He wanted to understand where I went wrong and begged me for more, insisting that the passion still lived between us. Foolishly, I agreed to a final encounter. That night, in our secret room, things escalated quickly. In a moment of panic, he jerked back suddenly, and a loud noise echoed through the house. In that instant, my husband stormed into the room. What followed was a blur of violence. My forbidden partner lay crumpled on the floor, and my husband, his face contorted in pain and fury, shouted at him to leave. I pleaded for calm, but anger took over, and in the chaos, I was thrown down. The room filled with scattered objects, a broken phone, and the terrible sound of shattering glass. I soon learned that my husband had called for help on his own. At the hospital, the damage was deep. My forbidden partner suffered serious injuries that required many surgeries. I was distraught and filled with regret. At home, my family reacted with overwhelming anger. My brother yelled at me, unable to understand how I could betray the man who had always loved me. My children looked at me with cold eyes. My husband, once my safe haven, now seemed broken by pain and betrayal. The shame was so heavy that I often found myself crying alone, helpless in the echoing silence of our home. In the following days, I was forced to relive every moment. I sat through long meetings and legal sessions where every detail of my secret was laid bare. My husband recounted the incident with a deep sadness and anger that no words could soothe. I listened to the recording of his desperate call for help and could feel the weight of each tear and each trembling sound. The trial was a nightmare, with hostile faces in the courtroom and harsh words that cut me to the core. Family members took sides. Some sided with my husband and condemned my betrayal. Others, perhaps out of pity, were silent. Every word reminded me that I had shattered a lifetime of trust. My life shifted forever after that fateful night. My children went through a period where they barely spoke to me. My sons averted their gaze, and my daughters shut me out completely. I lost my job, and the scandal ruined my reputation in my field. I tried to rebuild my life by taking on a small role at a local retail store, but every day was a struggle. I would often cry in the shower, overwhelmed by regret and the thought of all that I had lost. My friends and family who once supported me now shunned me. I felt hopeless, alone, and empty. I began attending therapy in a desperate bid to save what little remained of my soul. My therapist told me that I had started to see my forbidden lover not as a passing flame, but as a replacement for the love I once had. I had taken him for granted, treating him like a friend rather than my partner in a sacred bond. Slowly, I began to see that I had betrayed not only my husband, but also myself. The path to forgiveness would be long and steep. I tried to make amends by writing letters to my estranged children, seeking even a small chance to rebuild our connection. But the responses were few and often cold, deepening my sorrow further. Months turned into years. I worked hard to change and show that I could be more than the mistakes of my past. I reached out to my husband, trying to remind him of the love we once shared. I told him over and over that I was sorry. In rare moments, he looked at me with a flicker of something tender, but mostly his eyes remained hardened by betrayal. I tried to visit him at the correctional facility where he stayed when his anger became too much to bear, but my attempts were always turned away. I watched through a small window as he lived each day in silence and solitude, a constant reminder of my failure. At last, there came a day when I sensed a slight thaw in the cold frost that separated us. My children began to cautiously greet me with faint smiles, and my husband allowed me a brief phone call. These tiny signs of forgiveness filled me with hope, though I knew deep down that our life would never be as it once was. The love we had was scarred, and I had to accept that even if we rebuilt something, it would never erase the pain I had caused. A twist in my tale came when I received a letter in the mail from someone I never expected. It was a note from an old friend who had heard of my mistakes and the family's devastation. In simple words, they told me that they too had once been broken, and that forgiveness was a long, hard journey filled with missteps and sorrow. That letter brought a glimmer of understanding amidst the chaos. It made me realize that I was not the only one capable of change, that even at my lowest, there was a chance for a new beginning. I clung to that hope as I worked each day to become a better person, to make right the wrongs I had done. I now live each day with a heavy heart, but also with a cautious determination. I continue therapy, trying to understand the reasons behind my actions and learn how to rebuild trust. My husband slowly lets me back into his life, though I know his wounds run deep. I keep a journal where I write simple, honest sentences about my regrets, my small victories, and the long, hard road toward forgiveness. I have learned that the road to healing is not clear or easy. I take every step with the hope that one day, perhaps, we can find some semblance of peace, even if we never return to who we once were. A while after all these events, I received another story, a reply to my secret confessions from someone else in my family. This voice was raw, filled with anger and hurt. They recounted the days when they could not believe what my choices had wrought on our family. They told of how my father barely looked at me, how my brother's disappointment cut deeper than any argument, and how my children began to see me only as someone who shattered their happiness. In their words, I heard the echo of my own regret and the deep pain that runs through our family. They spoke simply and with a piercing honesty that made me understand the full weight of my selfish acts. They remembered the days when my husband had planned a surprise getaway, a quiet moment meant to rebuild our bond, only to find me entangled in a secret that left him shattered. In their recounting, they detailed the angry courtroom scenes, the harsh testimonies, and the desperate sounds of a man who had once loved me unconditionally. They remembered the trial when every detail of my betrayal was laid bare for all to see. Their words painted a picture of a man consumed by pain, a man who had been forced to defend himself and our family honor in a way that no one should have to. The response spoke of long-fought battles within our family. It told of how my siblings withdrew and how my mother and father's eyes filled with tears every time they tried to recall happier days. I read each line slowly, each sentence a reminder of what I had lost. I learned that, in their eyes, the selfish acts of a moment had left scars that would last a lifetime. They spoke of anger and disappointment that still festered, and of the long shadows cast by broken promises. In their words, I recognized not only the raw anger, but also a deep, quiet hope that I might one day find a way to mend what had been broken. My family's response was a call to never forget the pain I had caused. I now face their words every day as a constant reminder that I must work hard to earn back even a fraction of what was once unconditionally given. I carry their hurt like a weight, and each day I try to move forward, however slowly. I understand now that forgiveness might come only in small, uncertain steps. I try to show my children that I am learning, that I am trying to be better, even if the scars remain. I write these words in the hope that one day, when all the anger has softened a little, my family might allow me a second chance. Every small smile from my children and every soft word from my husband gives me strength. I have come to learn that there is no easy undoing of the past. I must live with the consequences of my actions every day. I long for the day when the silence at night is not filled with memories of betrayal, when the cold stares in the hall are replaced by forgiving eyes. I pray that if forgiveness is ever within reach, it will be because I have earned it through relentless effort and true change. Until that day comes, I continue to work on myself in small, humble ways. I aim to rebuild the trust that was shattered. I tend to my wounds and seek forgiveness not only from those I hurt, but from myself as well. I know deep down I may never be the person I once was, but I hope to evolve into someone worthy of love, a person who carries the lessons of the past like a badge of humility and remorse. I live each day with the memory of all that has been lost and the hopeful, fragile wish that someday my family will see the genuine change in me and allow us to heal together. I am aware that the road ahead is long and filled with uncertain turns. Yet I remain determined to wake up each day with hope. Even if forgiveness seems a distant dream, every small step I take is a part of that journey. I am trying to fix what was broken, to show by every kind act, every careful word, that my heart is still capable of loving deeply, even if it took me many mistakes to realize what matters most.